Hi, and welcome to another edition of We're Trying to Set a World Record and Desperately Need Your Help. Today's race was Gulf Coast. This is an Ironman branded event in Panama City Beach. So this was the first, and we will have a 35 race stretch here, no breaks. So enjoy these videos for the next 35 weeks. Billy's going to start us off with check-in and transition.
So this is our race review. Transition, still COVID protocol. I mean, not transition, the check-in. It's the first thing. The first standard COVID protocols, you had to have a mask on to go. They took your temperature before you went in. You had standard, you had to sign the waivers and all of that. Scanned your QR code, picture ID. All that. When you got there, that line actually wasn't very long to get past the temperature check and all of that. But then you got in the line to actually check in, and there was a line there. It moved pretty fast. I guess maybe there were 20 or 30 people in front of us. You had to sign up in advance for a check-in time, and your check-in time was, whatever it was. I think ours was 11 to 12 a.m. or 11 a.m. to 12 to noon. Got in line. I mean, you could talk to people. They had it was a zigzag line, and they had it marked off every 6 feet for you to keep your spacing. You got in. You checked in. It was a dynamic race numbers. So if you were next to whoever you wanted to be, you got a race number next to them. So if you have a big group of people and you want to all have similar race numbers or transition spots, then you can just all go together at one time and they'll assign you all the same numbers. I think that made it a little bit easier for them. This race had around 1,400, including the relay people, around 1,400 to 1,500 people. Heard the race announcer say that 700 of them were it was their very first time. So still a lot of people in the race, probably not. I don't know if that's normal for this race or not. Certainly there are some races that are bigger than that, but it was a lot of people. You looked at transition and there were a ton of bikes out there. What you got, the swag that you got was at check-in was you got a dry bag. So this is just a dry bag, rolls up. You got an Ironman face mask. So Ironman branded face mask. And then you got the Gulf Coast t-shirt. So you got this at check-in, not at the finish. So you also got your standard race numbers, like for your bike and your helmet and all that. They also had the race numbers for all of your gear bags, but there were no gear bags. You didn't get any gear bags. All you got was just the dry bag. You got some coupons and stuff like that, but not gear bags like what you would normally get. Moving to transition, we got super lucky with our transition, our bike spots. Our bikes only had 3 bikes per rack. In fairness, it was up next to a curb, and so you couldn't put bikes on the other side. But every other bike rack, well, almost every other bike rack had 6. So it was not an extra spacing for the bikes this time. They've gotten rid of that. So that's standard for all Ironman races. As far as transition goes, I don't know, other than having to wear a mask and having to take your temperature, even the morning of the race, they took your temperature before you went into transition. Other than that, I think that it was probably a standard transition. It had porta potties in transition. Had a bike in and bike out opposite of the swim in, run out. Can you think of anything in transition that would have been different than a normal Ironman?
No, they had masks. If you didn't wear whatever your particular mask was to transition, they had them available there. Even if you had one on, they were giving them out. So they've got the KN95s. So yeah, they were great. And then of course, you wore that mask down to the swim all the way till right before you got in the water. So you threw the mask away and then you went in the water.
Mask was required to put your bike in transition, to go through the check-in. You're wearing a mask the whole time. They'd give you one if you didn't have one. And they did do that. It was the KN95s for both the swim start and the finish. So good for them for providing that.
So they did their COVID stuff was great. No, no issues. So I'll talk about the swim. It is a out and then a little 250 yard and back swim. The COVID protocols with the 5-second start. So they had 3 lines. So you got in your self seated on the swim. You got in your bracket, and then they lined you up in big corrals. And then, of course, they took the corrals, and each one then went to the start, and then there were 3 people jumping in the water every 5 seconds. I like that a lot, but we'll come back around to that. So, 6 buoys, and then the red buoy for the turn, and then another 250 yards, red buoy for the turn, 6 buoys back in. My watch said 2,000 yards. Billy said 2,200. So depending on how you meander through the course, you don't slalom those, man. You're supposed to just pick a side.
I know, man. I can't swim straight to save my life.
So you came out of the swim. They had the showers. This location is very friendly for that. So showers, and then straight into transition. For the bike.
So for the bike, hop on your bike. You roll out. It's just an out and back course. You roll through the beachfront properties for a few miles. At mile 10, you cross over the intercoastal waterway, which is a big bridge. There were some rolling hills, but that's the biggest hill is the bridge. So you hit, and then you go straight out that road, you turn around and you come back. And so it was pretty standard. The race course was open, so there were cars on the road, but they were very good about intersections. There were a couple of intersections in the beginning that did not have a police officer that I thought that should have, but for the most part, cones, they had traffic divided. For the most part, traffic was good on the bike. Fast bike, not much elevation change. Make sure your bike is set up for a Florida, flat race. There were some rolling hills, and then that one bridge that you crossed twice. Coming back in, it's a little windy coming through the buildings. This was the same as Ironman Florida. A little bit of wind coming through the buildings that you need to prepare for, but other than that, it was just a standard out and back course.
So the run course is a 3-loop course. You went out from over the Edgewater bridge through Edgewater, the golf course side a little bit, and then out on the road. Reasonably, we had our own dedicated run lane for the most part. When you got back on the main Panama City thoroughfare, you've got the shoulder of the road. And then cars are, of course, going slow because they always go slow on that road, but you do have cars there. You ran through the Shipwreck Island, the back of the water park. Very little shade on the run. It's pretty hot, pretty fast, very flat. You're at the beach, so there is the bridge over the road, which is your hill. There were also some speed bumps if you want to count those, but that's the hills. Great three-loop course. You keep track yourself. There were aid stations every mile, and since it's a 3-loop course, that part was great. They had the water, Gatorade, endurance, and then cookies, fig bars. Marine is the new Ironman branded, Ironman sponsored gels. And then, of course, cookies, pretzels, chips, soda, and Red Bull. And then the whole thing reversed itself on the other side. So it's a nice, simple, easy run.
The finish line was standard. They didn't do pizza. They had bagged food, which is same as what Ironman had at Ironman Florida. I mean, that's pretty much what people are doing now. They still had sodas and waters and plenty of people there. But I would say standard finish line. Other than there were more spectators at this finish, much more spectators at this finish line than Ironman Florida. So they have, I mean, just the way that it was set up, I guess you could have more people there. Yeah. But that was better for the spectators for sure. And the 3-loop run course, I mean, you get to see people on a 3-loop run course a lot. So that's, I mean, it's crowded, I suppose, but that worked out real good. One thing I forgot to mention on the bike course, they were doing flying handoffs, so they did, if you wanted water or food or whatever Gatorade, they were handing it to you. On the run course, you got it yourself. They set it out on the table. I never had trouble. No. The water was cold. They didn't run out of ice. Had water, Gatorade Endurance, food, Gatorade Endurance, water. So you had plenty of, and the ice at the very end. So you had plenty of time to get anything that you wanted on the run.
Thanks so much for viewing. We really appreciate it. We've got another video coming up with our likes, our dislikes, and our review. So stay tuned.